Hey guys, tonight I need you to look at your makeup bag and realize you're carrying around 4,000-year-old rituals that once protected people from literal death.
Hey guys, tonight I need you to look at your makeup bag and realize you're carrying around 4,000-year-old rituals that once protected people from literal death. I'm serious. That eyeliner you're wearing, in ancient Egypt it could mean the difference between going blind from an infection or seeing your grandchildren grow up. That lipstick. Not about looking cute for the harvest festival, it was about not having your lips literally crack and bleed in the desert sun. See, we like to laugh at the ancients, right? We see those heavy-lidded eyes on tomb paintings and think, wow, they really overdid it with the makeup. Meanwhile, we're out here injecting botulism into our foreheads and calling it progress. At least their lead-based cosmetics killed them slowly. But here's what's gonna mess with your head. Some of their beauty routines were more advanced than what we had until, like, the 1960s. They were doing chemical peels. They had breath mints. They were contouring before Instagram made it mandatory. So where are you all tuning in from tonight? And more importantly, what's your evening skincare routine looking like? Drop it in the comments, because I guarantee you some Egyptian priest 3,000 years ago was doing something weirdly similar. Maybe grab a mirror for this one. You're gonna want to see your own face differently by the time we're done. Like and subscribe if you enjoy these deep dives into the weird stuff your history teacher definitely skipped. Trust me, they weren't ready for this conversation. So close your eyes for a second. When you open them, you're waking up in Thebes, 1350 BCE. Your eyes flutter open. The first sensation isn't the heat, though the dawn air already carries that thick, oppressive promise of another scorching day. No, it's the smell. Frankincense, myrrh, something else. Lotus. Your body servant must have already been in, setting the sacred resins to burn in the corner brazier. You don't move yet. Movement means the beginning of the routine, and the routine means 3 hours minimum before you can even think about breakfast. Your husband left for the temple complex before Ra even considered showing his face. Lucky bastard only needs an hour to prepare. But you're a noblewoman of Thebes. You're not just representing your family today, you're representing the very concept of divine order. Maat herself would weep if you showed up to morning prayers with smudged coal. The servant girl, Iset, you think her name is. Though honestly, you've had so many appears at your bedside with the first tray. The implements gleam in the early light filtering through the high windows. Razors made from sharpened copper. Tweezers that could double as surgical instruments. Small pots of mysterious substances that cost more than Iset will see in her lifetime. My lady, she whispers, and you know it's time. First comes the cleansing. Not with water, that's for peasants and farmers. No, you get milk. Ass's milk specifically, because apparently regular cow's milk isn't luxurious enough for your skin. Cleopatra will make this famous in 1,000 years, but your great-grandmother was already bathing in the stuff. Iset pours it from an alabaster jug, and you can't help but think about the family down by the river who could feed their children for a week with what you're about to wash down the drain. But thoughts like that are dangerous. Beauty isn't vanity here. It's duty. It's religious observance. It's the thin line between civilization and chaos. The milk is warm, scented with honey and something floral. As Iset works it into your skin with practiced movements, you catch your reflection in the polished bronze mirror propped against the wall. Without makeup, you look human, mortal, unacceptable. Next comes the hair removal. Everything. The Egyptians have strong opinions about body hair, and those opinions can be summarized as absolutely not. Iset works with a sugar-based paste. Yeah, they invented sugaring too, ripping hair from places you didn't even know could grow hair. Your eyebrows get plucked into perfect thin arches. Any hint of upper lip hair, gone. You want to scream. You don't. Divine representations don't scream. Now for the oils. Your skin, freshly tortured, gets slathered in a mixture of moringa oil, frankincense, and something that smells suspiciously like cat piss but costs more than a boat. It's supposed to prevent wrinkles. You're 19, but prevention starts early when your face is literally considered a reflection of the gods. Here's where it gets interesting. Iset brings out the color pots. And this is where you transform from human to deity. The kohl comes first,
always the kohl. But this isn't just outlining your eyes. Oh no, this is architecture. This is mathematics. The line has to extend just so, not merely for beauty, but because the shape itself carries meaning. The almond eye of Horus, protection against the evil eye, a barrier against the tiny demons that float in the air and try to enter your body through your mucous membranes. They're not entirely wrong about that last part, actually. The lead in antimony and kohl really did have antibacterial properties. Too bad about the lead poisoning. Green malachite for your upper lids, crushed so fine it feels like silk. Red ochre mixed with tree resin for your lips, painted in a perfect Cupid's bow that won't be fashionable for another 3 millennia. Your cheeks get a dust of the same red ochre, but mixed with fat to make it creamy, spreadable. The smell is intense. Everything smells. Your beauty routine is an assault on all senses, but especially smell. By the time Izet finishes with your face, you're basically a walking temple offering. But you're not done. Oh, you're not even close to done. Your nails need henna orange red, the color of life and vitality. Your throat needs the special oil that makes your skin shimmer like the scales of a sacred fish. Your breasts, well, let's just say there's a whole separate routine for making sure the girls are sitting pretty under your calasaris. 3 hours later, you finally stand, transformed, inhuman, divine. Iset holds up the mirror again, and this time you don't see yourself. You see what you're supposed to see, a goddess trapped in flesh, maintaining the cosmic order one perfectly applied lip stain at a time. Time for breakfast. If you can still stomach it under all this lead. Okay, let's pause the time machine for a second because we need to talk about something wild. Those ancient Egyptians. They weren't just slapping random stuff on their faces and hoping for the best. They were accidentally doing science. Take that kohl our noble lady just spent 45 minutes applying. We laugh about the lead content, and yeah, the lead was definitely slowly killing everyone. But here's the kicker. That same lead-based makeup was also saving lives. Recent studies found that the lead salts in Egyptian cosmetics actually boosted nitric oxide production in skin cells by up to 240%. Know what that does? Helps fight off bacterial infections. In a world where a small cut could mean death, their toxic eyeliner was literally a line of defense. The Egyptians didn't know about bacteria, obviously. They thought they were fighting off invisible demons. But when you live in a desert where every grain of sand is trying to give you an eye infection, and you notice that people who wear kohl go blind less often, you don't question the why. You just paint that stuff on thicker. And the red ochre lips, not just a look, honey. Red ochre is basically iron oxide rust. Sounds gross, but it's a natural sunblock. SPF 30-ish if you're counting. These people were contouring with sun protection while Europeans were still figuring out that bathing wouldn't steal their souls. But wait, it gets weirder. Remember that sugar paste hair removal situation? They didn't just invent sugaring. They understood that hairless skin was less likely to harbor lice and other parasites. In a civilization where one lice outbreak could take down a whole household, being dolphin smooth wasn't vanity. It was survival. The milk baths, lactic acid, natural chemical exfoliant. They were doing AHA treatments 3,000 years before some dermatologist in Beverly Hills discovered them and charged $300 a pop. Cleopatra's ass milk baths weren't just showing off girlfriend, was maintaining her skin's pH balance and sloughing off dead cells like a pro. Now about those face masks. Oh boy, the face masks. You know what was a popular ingredient? Crocodile dung. I'm not making this up. Crocodile dung, mixed with honey and applied liberally to the face. And here's the absolutely bonkers part. It probably worked. Not because of any magical properties of crocodile poop, but because, 1, the alkaline nature of the dung would have acted as a mild chemical peel. 2, the honey is antibacterial and hydrating. 3, the placebo effect is real and powerful. 4, if you're rich enough to source crocodile shit for your skincare routine, you're probably also eating well and living stress-free, which does more for your skin than any cream. The Egyptians were also crushing up malachite for that gorgeous green eyeshadow, which is copper carbonate. Copper has antimicrobial properties. They were literally wearing antibiotic eyeshadow. Sure, mining and crushing malachite killed plenty of slaves,
The dust is toxic as hell. But the finished product on some noble's eyelids, probably preventing conjunctivitis. They use natron, the same salt they used in mummification, as deodorant and tooth powder. It's sodium carbonate, highly alkaline, kills bacteria and neutralizes odors. They had better breath than medieval Europeans who thought tooth decay was caused by tiny worms.
Even their perfumes were functional. They weren't just masking BO in a world without daily showers. Essential oils like frankincense and myrrh have antimicrobial properties. Lotus oil, anti-inflammatory, that cat piss smell I mentioned. Probably civet gross to obtain, you don't want to know. But it contains natural pheromones and fixatives that make other scents last longer. Here's what kills me. They figured all this out through trial and error. Thousands of years of, hey, when I put this weird green rock powder on my eyes, they don't get as crusty. They didn't have microscopes or clinical trials. They just had observation, desperation, and apparently an unlimited willingness to put literally anything on their faces. Were they also poisoning themselves? Absolutely. The average Egyptian noble probably had enough lead in their system to set off a modern metal detector. But in a world where you could die from a sandstorm, a mosquito bite, or just looking at the Nile water wrong, slowly poisoning yourself while preventing immediate infection was a trade-off that made sense. Makes you think twice about judging that friend who spends $200 on snail mucin serum, doesn't it? At least they're not rubbing crocodile shit on their face. Probably. All right, buckle up, because this is where your assumptions about ancient masculinity go straight into the Nile. You thought our noble lady had it rough with her 3-hour morning routine. Let me introduce you to Amenhotep, high priest of Amun-Ra, whose morning prep makes her look like she's running out for groceries in sweatpants. 4 hours, minimum. And that's on a casual day when he's not meeting with Pharaoh. See, Egyptian men didn't just tolerate makeup, they went hard. Harder than the women in many cases. And before you start thinking this was some progressive gender-neutral beauty land, pump the brakes. This wasn't about breaking gender norms. This was about power, divinity, and showing everyone exactly where you stood in the cosmic pecking order. Let's start with the eyes. If women's kohl application was architecture, men's was engineering. The thicker the line, the closer to the gods. Priests especially would layer that lead-based goodness until their eyes looked like they were peering through divine keyholes. The shape mattered too. Slightly different angles for men. More angular, more aggressive. Think less alluring almond and more, I will smite you with the power of Ra. But the real masculine flex, the beard game. Here's the thing. Most Egyptian men couldn't actually grow decent beards. Genetics, desert climate, whatever, didn't matter. You know what they did? They made fake ones, out of metal, out of human hair, out of wool. They braided them, they perfumed them, they dyed them with henna and indigo. The longer and more elaborate your fake beard, the more godlike you were. Pharaoh's false beard was the ultimate power move, made of gold, shaped like a narrow cylinder, held on with ribbons that nobody was allowed to mention. Imagine being in court trying to keep a straight face while your god king's obviously fake beard slightly tilts to the left. You don't laugh. You can't. That beard represents the primordial forces of creation. Also, laughing gets you killed. Working-class men had their own version of this madness. They couldn't afford the full routine, but they still needed to participate in the beauty culture. So they'd use cheaper materials. Coal instead of imported coal. Local oils instead of frankincense. Clay-based paints instead of crushed semi-precious stones. But they still spent time every morning making sure they looked properly Egyptian. A construction worker building Khufu's pyramid would still line his eyes before heading to work. Why? Because showing up barefaced was basically saying, I don't respect the gods, the pharaoh, or the concept of order itself. That's not a message you want to send when you're hauling limestone blocks for a living god. The priest class, though, these guys were next level. They had to be physically perfect representatives of the gods. That meant complete body hair removal. And, I mean, complete. They'd pluck individual hairs with tweezers. Multiple baths per day in sacred pools. Skin had to be moisturized until it gleamed. Nails painted with henna, special perfumes for different times of day. Makeup that had to be reapplied between ceremonies.
One smudge, one stray hair, one chip in your nail polish. You're ritually impure, can't perform ceremonies, might anger the gods, might cause the Nile not to flood. No pressure. And here's the kicker. They believed this stuff worked. When you looked good, the gods paid attention. When the gods paid attention, the crops grew. It wasn't vanity, it was agricultural policy. The male beauty complex in ancient Egypt makes modern gym bros look lazy.
These dudes were getting up at 3 a.m. to make sure their eyeliner was symmetrical because asymmetry might literally cause the sun not to rise. They were the original "I'll sleep when I'm dead" crowd. Except they thought their grooming routine was keeping everyone alive. Next time some guy complains about waiting for his girlfriend to do her makeup, remind him that his ancient counterpart would have already been 2 hours deep into beard maintenance and still have another hour of body oiling to go. Different times, man. Different times. Okay, we've had our fun with the crocodile dung and fake beards, but now we need to talk about the real cost of looking divine. Because beneath all that perfectly applied malachite and symmetrical kohl lies a truth that would make your favorite true crime podcast jealous. Let's start with the obvious, the lead poisoning. Every single noble in Egypt was slowly being murdered by their makeup routine. The symptoms of chronic lead exposure read like a who's who of royal afflictions. Infertility, cognitive decline, mood swings, abdominal pain, kidney failure. Sound familiar? Yeah, that's basically every pharaoh's medical record. But here's what's truly messed up. They kind of knew. Not about leads specifically, but they noticed that the people who wore the most makeup often died younger, sicker, stranger deaths. Did they stop? Hell no. They decided it was the price of divinity. Better to die beautiful at 35 than live ugly until 50. Now let's talk about where this makeup came from. That gorgeous green malachite eyeshadow, mined by slaves in conditions that would make coal mining look like a spa day. Malachite dust is toxic when inhaled. Guess who was inhaling it all day, every day? Not the nobles wearing it. The mines in the eastern desert and Sinai were death sentences. Workers, many of them children because their small hands could reach the best deposits, would last maybe 2 years before their lungs gave out. They'd cough up green-tinted blood while some priest 300 miles away complained that his eyeshadow wasn't bright enough. And the galena mines for coal. Even worse, lead sulfide ore, crushed by hand, no ventilation, no protection. The average life expectancy for a galena miner was 18 months from the first day of work. 18 months to feed the beauty industry of an entire civilization. But the physical toxicity was just the beginning. Let's talk about the psychological warfare. Beauty in ancient Egypt wasn't optional. It was legally and religiously mandated. Show up to temple without proper makeup, that's a beating. Appear in public with smudged kohl, social exile. Let your body hair grow. You might as well announce you're in league with Set. Children started beauty training at 5. 5. Little girls would have their eyebrows plucked, their baby hair removed, their soft skin subjected to harsh exfoliants. Boys would practice sitting still for hours while someone painted their faces. By 10, they could apply a full face of makeup in the dark. By 15, the psychological damage was complete. There are papyrus records of young women killing themselves because facial scarring from smallpox meant they could never achieve the beauty standards. Teen boys who accidentally damaged their skin during hair removal would become social pariahs. The pressure was crushing, constant, inescapable, and the punishments for beauty infractions were brutal. A servant who accidentally smudged a noble's makeup could be beaten to death, and that was legal. A priest who showed up to ceremony with asymmetrical eyeliner could be stripped of position and exiled. Women who couldn't maintain beauty standards after childbirth were divorced and left destitute. There's this one papyrus from Deir el-Medina that really gets me. It's a suicide note from a young woman named Nefertiti, not the famous one, just some random girl cursed with a name meaning, "The beautiful one has come." She writes about how she can't afford the cosmetics needed to maintain her appearance after her father died. Without makeup, she can't leave the house, can't work, can't worship, can't exist. So she chose not to. The beauty industry created a caste system more rigid than bloodlines. You could be born royal, but if you couldn't maintain the look, you're nobody. You could be brilliant, strong, capable, didn't matter if your kohl game was weak. And here's the darkest part. The priests and nobles knew exactly what they were doing.
They created a system where divine representation required toxic materials that only they could afford, mined by people they owned, creating standards that ensured most of the population would always fall short. It was social control through cosmetics, the template they created. It never went away. Rome picked it up. Medieval Europe refined it. The Renaissance perfected it. Every civilization since has had its own version of you must poison yourself to prove you're worthy of being seen. We look at Egyptian mummies in museums and admire how well preserved they are, how beautiful the death masks remain. We don't think about the generations of people who died young so those masks could gleam, or the children who learned to hate their own faces before they learned to read. Beauty always has a price. In ancient Egypt, they were just more honest about who was paying it. All right, let's talk about what you've all been waiting for, the sexy stuff. Because ancient Egyptian beauty wasn't just about looking good for the gods. Sometimes it was about looking good for more earthly pursuits. First, let's murder the Cleopatra myth. You know, the one history's ultimate seductress, beauty that launched 1,000 ships, milk baths, and pearl vinegar cocktails. Here's the thing. Contemporary accounts suggest Cleopatra was actually pretty average looking. Her real power. Girl was smart as hell and knew how to work a beauty routine like psychological warfare. She didn't seduce Caesar and Antony with her face. She did it with perfume. Egyptian perfume game was absolutely unhinged. They had different scents for different activities. Kai-fi for religious ceremonies. Mendesian for seduction. Sacred oil for fertility rituals. These weren't just nice smells. They were pharmaceutical cocktails. Take the famous Egyptian musk. Main ingredients, blue lotus, mild psychoactive, mandrake, hallucinogen, and opium poppy. Yeah, that opium. They were literally getting their partners high through skin absorption. That intoxicating beauty thing, not a metaphor. The erotic poetry of the time is wild when you understand the beauty context. There's this one papyrus where a dude spends 40 lines describing his lover's eyebrows. 40 lines about eyebrows. But when you realize those perfectly shaped brows took 2 hours and several servants to achieve, the fetish makes more sense. Now about those temple prostitutes, or as they preferred, God's wives. These women had beauty routines that make Instagram influencers look low maintenance. We're talking full-body gold dust, actual gold. Nipples painted with rouge and highlighted with gilt. Intimate areas dyed with henna in intricate patterns, special perfumes for different regions. Hair removal so thorough archaeologists thought they were prepubescent. They weren't. But here's where it gets medically fascinating. Their beauty products doubled as birth control and STI prevention. That crocodile dung we mocked earlier, mixed with honey and natron, inserted internally. Sounds gross, but the alkalinity actually created a spermicidal barrier. Those clever bastards invented the diaphragm. Marriage contracts from the Middle Kingdom actually specified beauty maintenance requirements, like legally binding, thou shalt keep thy kohl symmetrical clauses. One papyrus from 1200 BCE shows a divorce settlement where the woman gets extra compensation because pregnancy ruined her beauty and made her unmarriageable. The beauty standards for sexual desirability were insanely specific. Elongated skull, achieved through childhood head binding. No body hair anywhere except the head. Skin like fresh milk. Eyes that took up a third of the face. Hello, strategic makeup. Breasts like unopened lotus buds, whatever that means. A very specific waist-to-hip ratio that they calculated mathematically, but the real mind-bender. The beauty rituals themselves were considered foreplay. There's tomb art showing couples doing each other's makeup as part of intimate scenes. Applying kohl to your partner's eyes was basically second base. Oiling someone's skin. That's Netflix and chill hieroglyphic style. The intersection of beauty and fertility rituals is where things get properly weird. Women trying to conceive would wear special makeup made from ground-up scarab beetles, fertility symbol, mixed with menstrual blood, I know. They'd paint fertility symbols on their bodies in places only their husbands would see. Some would even insert small amulets shaped like penises into their elaborate wigs, hidden but spiritually present. And yes, men had their own seduction routines, special beard oils with pheromone-mimicking compounds. Penis sheaths, Google Kotecha if you dare,
decorated with gold and jewels. One pharaoh supposedly had his member painted with henna before each wedding night. The pattern was different each time, like sexual signature moves. Here's what kills me. We act like ancient people were prudes, but they were out here turning their entire beauty routine into an erotic art form. Every smudge of kohl was calculated to invoke desire. Every scent was designed to alter consciousness. Every beauty ritual was foreplay in disguise. They understood something we've forgotten in our quick swipe age. Anticipation is everything. When it takes 4 hours to prepare your body for love, you better believe both parties are going to appreciate the effort. Though I still draw the line at crocodile dung birth control. Some things are better left in the past. You want to know how seriously the Egyptians took beauty? They spent more on their death makeup than most people spent on their entire lives. Let me paint you a picture. You're dead. Congratulations. Your ka has left your body. You're about to face 42 judges in the afterlife, and your biggest concern, whether your eyeliner will last for eternity. Because yes, the ancient Egyptians believed you needed to look good for your own judgment day. Mummification wasn't just preservation. It was the ultimate makeover. We're talking a 70-day spa treatment where you're the least active participant. The process went something like this. First, they'd remove all the squishy bits that might ruin your eternal look. Brain, pulled out through your nose with a hook. Organs, scooped out and stored separately, except the heart. You needed that for judgment. Then came 40 days of drying in natron salt. You'd emerge looking like beef jerky, which is where the real artistry began. The embalmers weren't just preserving bodies, they were cosmetic surgeons, makeup artists, and hairdressers for the dead. They'd stuff your cheeks with linen to restore that youthful plumpness. Sunken eyes, painted stones or onions, yes, onions, pushed under the lids. Lost your nose to decomposition. Here's a wooden prosthetic. But the makeup, oh, the makeup was next level. They'd apply the same cosmetics you wore in life, but permanent versions. Kohl made with extra binding agents to last millennia. Lip color mixed with tree resin that would never smudge. They'd even apply rouge to give you that healthy dead glow. The goal was to look exactly like you did at your hottest, youngest moment, frozen forever. For royalty, this went completely off the rails. Tutankhamun's mummy had more eyeliner than a 2007 emo concert. Ramesses II got hair plugs. Actual hair from other people woven into his scalp because he'd gone bald and apparently couldn't face the afterlife without his iconic red hair. Nefertiti's mummy, if we ever find it, probably looks like she's headed to the Met Gala. The cosmetics buried with the dead tell us everything about Egyptian priorities. Average tomb, maybe a pot of coal and some basic oils. Noble tomb, entire makeup kits with multiple palettes, applicators, mirrors, razors, tweezers. Pharaoh's tomb, basically a Sephora warehouse. Tutankhamun had over 350 liters of perfumed oils buried with him. Litters. Boy was planning to smell amazing for eternity. There were makeup containers shaped like swimming ducks, elaborate calcite jars for every possible beauty product, and enough kohl to line the eyes of everyone in the afterlife. But here's the dark part. They believed your appearance in death determined your fate in the afterlife. Show up looking rough. The gods might not recognize you. Smudged makeup. Amit the Devourer might eat your heart just for the aesthetic offense. This wasn't vanity. This was existential terror managed through cosmetics. The opening of the mouth ceremony is peak beauty madness. Before sealing the tomb, priests would symbolically apply makeup to the mummy's face one last time, opening their features so they could breathe, see, and speak in the afterlife. Imagine being a priest, carefully applying lipstick to a mummified corpse, believing that without this final touch-up, the deceased would spend eternity unable to taste the offerings left for them. Some tombs have what we call servant shapti, little figurines meant to do work in the afterlife. But they also had what I call beauty shapti, figures whose whole job was to maintain the deceased's appearance for eternity. Tiny wooden servants doomed to an afterlife of eternal touch-ups. The real kicker. It worked. Sort of. When we unwrap mummies today, traces of their makeup are still visible. The kohl still stains the eye areas. The henna still colors what's left of their nails. They achieved their immortal beauty, even if they're not around to appreciate it. We look at these painted corpses in museums and think it's morbid. But for them, it was hope. Hope that death didn't mean the end of beauty, that you could face the gods looking your best, that eternity didn't mean letting yourself go. They turned death into the ultimate glow-up. Can't relate, but honestly, kind of respect it. So here we are, 4,000 years later, and guess what? We're still doing the same damn thing. That Egyptian magic cream at Whole Foods. It's literally just olive oil and beeswax, the same base formula they used in Memphis. Those $200 gold face masks celebrities love. Cleopatra's beauty routine, repackaged with better marketing. The jade rollers, the gua sha, the lymphatic drainage, all variations on beauty tools found in Egyptian tombs. But it goes deeper than ingredients. The Egyptians created the template we're still following. Beauty as moral virtue, check. How many times have you heard look good, feel good, or seen self-care conflated with spending 3 hours on skincare? The Egyptians convinced us that our appearance reflects our inner worth, and we never recovered. Toxic ingredients for beauty. Still happening. We swapped lead for parabens, mercury for formaldehyde, crocodile dung for snail mucin. Okay, that one's arguably an upgrade. We know our cosmetics contain endocrine disruptors and carcinogens. We use them anyway. The priests of Amun-Ra would be so proud. Beauty is class warfare. Look at the price of clean beauty products. Tell me that's not the same system where only nobles could afford non-toxic makeup. We've democratized the toxic stuff and made the safe options luxury items. It's the Egyptian beauty caste system with better PR. The Egyptians invented the influencer economy too. Those tomb paintings showing perfect faces, that's Instagram. Priests demonstrating proper kohl application, YouTube tutorials, papyrus scrolls with beauty tips, the original beauty blogs. They even had sponsored content. This mummification brought to you by Anubis Premium Natron Salts. Here's what really gets me. We judge them for putting lead on their faces while we inject botulinum toxin into ours. We laugh at their crocodile dung masks while rubbing bird poop facials. Yes, that's real. Onto our cheeks. We mock their 4-hour beauty routines while normalizing 10-step K-beauty regimens. The Egyptian beauty standards didn't die, they evolved. Every civilization that conquered or traded with Egypt took home their beauty secrets. Rome adopted the baths and oils. Greece took the mathematics of perfect proportions. Arabs refined the perfumes. Europeans inherited the pale skin obsession. It spread like a beautiful toxic virus. Even our language carries their legacy. Cosmetics comes from the Greek cosmos. Order, arrangement, the same concept as ma'at. When we say someone looks divine or goddess-like, we're invoking their belief that beauty equals divinity. The word alcohol comes from alcohol, the Arabic term for that eye powder that slowly poisoned generations. But here's the thing. Knowing the history doesn't make us stop. I can tell you about lead poisoning and dead miners and beauty-induced suicides, and tomorrow you'll still check your reflection, still fix your makeup, still feel that little hit of satisfaction when you look put together. Because the Egyptians didn't just give us beauty products. They gave us the belief that our faces are projects, that our natural state needs improvement, that the work of beauty is the work of civilization itself. 4,000 years later, we're still painting our faces to please gods we don't believe in, following rules written by people who've been dust for millennia. The Egyptians achieved their immortality after all. It lives in every swipe of eyeliner, every bathroom shelf groaning with products, every moment we judge ourselves in the mirror. They'd be so proud, and probably a little disgusted we're not using enough gold. Take a breath, you're back in your room. The candles are probably lower now, your drink might be cold, but that mirror you grabbed at the beginning. Take another look. See that face staring back. It's carrying 4,000 years of someone else's beauty standards. Every time you reach for concealer, you're participating in a ritual older than most religions. Every swipe of mascara connects you to a noble in Thebes who thought the gods would abandon her if her lashes weren't perfect. Kind of heavy, right? But also kind of beautiful. Not the makeup, the connection. The fact that across millennia, across the rise and fall of entire civilizations, we're all just humans trying to feel worthy of being seen. The Egyptians were wrong about a lot. Beauty doesn't equal morality. The gods don't care about your eyeliner. Crocodile dung is definitely not skincare. But they were right about one thing.
How we present ourselves to the world matters. Not because it determines our cosmic worth, but because it's one of the few things we can control in this chaotic existence. So tomorrow morning, when you do your routine, maybe think about our noble lady in Thebes. You're both just trying to face the day feeling human. Thanks for taking this weird journey with me tonight. Sleep well, you beautiful disasters.